A brother demands accountability for his sister's murder.
I just don't understand why we're not stressing the importance of the biggest shooting in Baltimore history.
Why a court ruling regarding one of the suspects is sparking outrage. DPW's 2024 calendar laced with errors.
I think it's kind of funny. Never heard of a calendar that didn't have the actual dates correct.
Why residents are questioning their priorities and the response from the agency. Look at this video. A stolen tow truck drives off with a brand new car from a county dealership.
Probably wasn't going to be their only car that night.
Why tow companies fear this could become a bigger issue. Then, a city schools employee arrested for allegedly bringing in a loaded gun.
It hits close to home when it's actually the school that your child is in.
Why some parents say they aren't surprised.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Folks do not feel safe. There's an expectation that government do everything it can to protect people.
It is absolutely my commitment that people will be around the table to figure this out. We can't continue like this.
Well, elected leaders promise accountability during a pair of public safety town halls this week as we hear from residents frustrated with juvenile crime in Baltimore. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson. That discussion has been building since Monday night when several people took their concerns directly to the Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi, saying his office isn't doing its job.
It's you guys, and you guys need to fix the problem. There is a breakdown somewhere within DJS, especially with the vendor when it comes to the GPS monitoring system, and something needs to be changed.
Conversation continued last night in South Baltimore. Residents told current and former elected leaders they don't feel safe in their neighborhoods. They say accountability needs to happen at all levels.
I've talked to parents who are afraid to send their kids to school because their classmates are carjacking and carrying guns. So parents need to be held accountable as well.
I have a half dozen neighbors who live on my street who have been physically assaulted over the past 18 months, and 2/3 of those assaults have occurred in broad daylight. So what I'm interested in learning is, what are you going to do tomorrow?
Well, among those speaking at last night's town hall, the family of 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez, one of two people killed in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. Her mother and brother are demanding answers after a judge approved a motion to move one of the suspects to a juvenile facility. Tristan Brian Jackson is turned 18 2 months before the shooting, leaving the family to question why he's not being held as an adult. Tonight, we have team coverage of pleas for accountability, beginning with Rebecca Pryor and the ongoing frustration from Aaliyah's family.
On July 2nd, an annual block party turning tragic. Brooklyn Day celebrations abruptly ending with an eruption of gunfire that would mark the city's worst mass shooting in Baltimore's history. Among the 30 people shot, 21-year-old Khalees Fagbemi and 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez losing their lives. 6 months have now passed and 4 arrests have been made. But at a Fox 45 town hall,
My name is Rashawn Shelbourne. I am the older brother of Aaliyah Gonzalez.
the victim's family questioning if justice is truly being served and the suspects held accountable following a controversial court ruling.
I just seen earlier on the news today that Tristan Jackson, the 18-year-old who was 18 at the time of the shooting, he got sent back to juvenile, but the man is 6'5", 210 pounds, and he was 18 at the time of the shooting, and he also had an ankle monitor at the time. So I just don't understand why we're not stressing the importance of the biggest shooting in Baltimore history, and we're not making it an example of the situation.
According to charging documents, police placing 18-year-old Tristan Jackson at the scene of the crime using GPS coordinates from an ankle bracelet the Department of Juvenile Services was supposed to be monitoring. Police also claiming video from CCTV surveillance cameras showed Jackson spraying 5 rounds in the direction of 7 unknown individuals who were fleeing. Facing 57 counts of attempted murder and weapons charges, in August, a judge deeming Jackson a danger to the community, holding him without bond in an adult facility. But last Friday, Judge Charles Bloomquist approving a motion to move Jackson to a juvenile facility.
Legally speaking, minors are minors and adults are adults. It just doesn't seem to follow the logical course of where most cases track.
The decision shocking local attorneys Fox 45 spoke with who have no involvement in the case.
It is highly unusual for something like this to occur.
It would be extremely rare, no doubt.
And Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates, who in a statement to Fox 45 Reading Park, quote, "We do not believe that an adult should be housed in a juvenile facility with children while he awaits trial on adult charges." Bates also warning due to capacity constraints inside DJS detention centers and PREA laws, which prohibit adult inmates from being housed where they would have sight, sound, or physical contact with juvenile inmates, Jackson could be released from DJS detention.
He can go home on an ankle monitor. That could theoretically happen, which I think is a very scary proposition.
Concerns likely being carefully considered by the administrative judge tasked with approving or denying the ruling, as the motion to move Jackson has been awaiting a final decision for almost a full week.
That was Rebecca Pryor reporting. A spokesperson for the department responded this afternoon, saying the department can't speak on a specific case due to confidentiality laws. What they can say is that DJS does not turn children away from detention. If the court orders a youth detained, they will be detained regardless of facility capacity. If you missed our Your Voice, Your Future town hall last night, it airs Saturday at 5 p.m. on Fox 45. You can also catch the town hall Sunday on the CW from 6 to 7 p.m. and on MyTV from 7 to 8. Tristan Jackson was one of 2 teen suspects on ankle monitoring at the time of the shooting. It's raising questions about how DJS keeps track of those in the facility. The department has 14 staff members for more than 100 kids, a ratio of about 1 to 9. Those not inside a DJS facility are often under home monitoring, but not without issues. A Baltimore mother tells Fox 45 News her 17-year-old son was placed on home monitoring after committing a robbery, but says he violated the terms 3 times. The mother says DJS wouldn't take her son back even after she filed an emergency appeal.
They told me down DGS today that they can't keep kids down there. And I asked why. They said because it's the rules, it's the laws.
DJS Secretary Schiraldi is at the center of some of the complaints, facing pushback on his views about the adult prison system. Governor Wes Moore has called Schiraldi a reformer. Others say his views are making Maryland less safe, including several residents at Monday night's town hall.
When it comes to hearing from DJS specifically, what do you want to hear from the secretary about what's going on?
His resignation. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but I just don't think he gets it.
I think Schiraldi really came out short. He was very indirect, and in some ways he was very self-serving tonight. And really, this is about public safety. It's not about him personally. And I think there's a lot more accountability he needs to answer to. I think Schiraldi's got a lot of gaps in what his data presents.
Fox 45's Jeff Abel looks into some of the controversy surrounding Schiraldi's track record.
Well, the governor is standing behind his DJS secretary, calling him a true reformer. But there are growing questions tonight whether his brand of reform will turn the state around. From the moment he was nominated, questions about Vincent Schiraldi began to surface. Can he dig Maryland out of its juvenile crime crisis?
What this person is bringing to Maryland will exacerbate that problem.
The new DJS secretary has long endorsed the elimination of youth prisons and the reduction of community corrections, and he's long been convinced that juveniles should not be exposed to the adult prison system until they turn 25.
When you put these young people in adult systems, they really don't do well. Kids that are really young are much more of a social service problem than they are a criminal juvenile justice problem.
There is a breakdown somewhere within DJS.
At a community meeting earlier this week, many residents questioned Schiraldi's contention that the juvenile crime rate was on the downturn. Even prosecutors seemed skeptical.
Secretary Schiraldi, I would really love to see your data.
Absolutely.
Because, and this is from 22.
Yeah, and you're going to see the next one in less than a month. I'd like to see some data from you, though.
We need a reformer because that department needs reforming.
On talk radio this week, Governor Wes Moore insisted his selection of Schiraldi is exactly what the state needs.
And I knew that I could not put someone there, and I would not put someone there who was just a happy to be there kind of secretary. Secretary Schiraldi is a person who is a reformer and has a history of being a reformer. He reformed the New York City Corrections Department. He did it under Michael Bloomberg.
The governor says that he's a reformer, but he has no track record of reforming anything.
But Kenji Scott, who once led Maryland's Juvenile Justice Coalition, isn't convinced Schiraldi is capable of repairing a system that is habitually broken.
We ought to be at the point right now of transforming the current juvenile penal system into a treatment-driven system, and we're not there. And this is not the guy for the job.
Schiraldi is the only member of the governor's cabinet when, during selection process, failed to win the unanimous support of the legislature. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Well, earlier this week, we asked you if you think Governor Wes Moore should replace DJS Secretary Schiraldi. 96% of those who voted said yes. If you feel your juvenile crime concerns aren't being heard, you can contact your lawmakers. House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful voices in Annapolis. Their phone numbers and email addresses are on your screen.
We've been enjoying a nice and quiet pattern around the region, and we're still seeing that right now. There's really not much happening on the HD radar. It's dry across Maryland and across the region, and this is great news for holiday travelers. Over the next few days, we're looking at a drop and then rise in temperatures. For the first full day of winter tomorrow, our temperatures will be just a hair below average, 45 for the high. But notice on Saturday and Sunday, we're talking a rise in temperatures, 51 on Saturday, 54 on Sunday, and that trend is going to continue as we move forward and get closer to Christmas Day. And even beyond that, we're talking the warm trend continuing for the beginning of winter. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at what you can expect for Christmas and when we'll have the next chance for rain in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Still ahead on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight. 5 guns found in 3 city schools over the past 48 hours. The shock from parents as both students and staff are allegedly caught with loaded weapons. Thieves in the Baltimore area are using stolen tow trucks to double up on crime. The dramatic video of one man's efforts to chase down suspects. And DPW's 2024 calendar is out with some glaring errors in it. Why some are questioning the priorities of the agency amid a list of concerns from residents. If you received a calendar from the Department of Public Works, you may want to take a closer look at the dates. Baltimore residents took to social media to share pictures of the calendars they received riddled with errors. Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us live right now with the latest on this apparent mishap and the response from DPW. Keith?
Well, guys, you know DPW is responsible for many things, including the drinking water in the Baltimore area and the trash and recycling service, the agency under recent scrutiny in some of those areas. And tonight, now this. If you live in Baltimore City, chances are you've received one of these in the mail.
March, April.
A calendar for the next year from the Baltimore City Department of Public Works.
Oh, they missed the 22nd.
A flawed calendar, one riddled with errors, including, look here, the city simply erased October 22nd, but the next month added a day, November 31st.
That's really unfortunate. Yeah, that's they must have, somebody's kicking themselves for that one.
Thousands of calendars recently mailed to city taxpayers, including Pat Fisher.
It's a waste of money. It went in the trash can.
And Eric Landers.
Maybe DPW could use a little work.
Who live in the Medfield neighborhood.
The errors, did someone not go over that before they mailed it out? I mean, how incompetent.
What are we doing with our money? We're paying this money as, taxpayers, the citizens that live in the city, and we want it to be good to use, but also people make mistakes and errors happen, and that's what happens in life.
We reached out to DPW. A spokesperson said, email our questions. We did, asking how much money was spent on these calendars, including mail cost. When did DPW become aware of the errors? Were the mistakes caught but mailed out anyway? A DPW spokesperson responded, but without answering any of our questions. Instead, releasing a statement that reads in part, DPW deeply regrets the recent editorial mistakes that occurred in the annual calendar. In light of this, we have initiated a thorough review of our editorial processes. Still, more reaction in Medfield.
I've never heard of a calendar that didn't have the actual dates correct, so it may be a, what do you call it? Save it for later, maybe a valuable item someday.
Well, that man did not save his calendar. He says he hasn't used a paper calendar in decades. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
All right, Keith, thank you. There have been several other issues involving the Department of Public Works in recent months. DPW received criticism for its handling of the E. coli crisis in September of last year and a parasite outbreak this fall. Residents say DPW left them in the dark for days on both occasions. The department also lost control of the Back River wastewater treatment plant for a period of time after toxic substances were found in the water. The state says they were from failures from all levels of leadership at the plant. Then there are concerns with recycling pickup. It's been 3 years since the city scaled back to bi-weekly pickup as DPW cites staffing shortages and equipment costs. DPW says for its part, it is hoping for a return to weekly pickup early next year. The department also faced backlash over its decision to rebrand late last year, including the addition of a new logo. Some, including Councilman Yitchi Schleifer, question why the agency spent its time and resources to rebrand.
So normally when you rebrand, you're doing something different. You want to show a fresh new style. You want to show that you're doing something different. But as you can see here, the day after DPW launched their rebrand, the same chronic issues still persist. I've seen people online talking a lot, saying, you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig.
Fox 45 News has done extensive reporting on the issues about DPW. You can find our reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com. A Baltimore man accused of hitting and dragging an officer with his car is found not guilty. The latest from court as we take a closer look at his record.
Parts of Gaza have been leveled in the war in the Middle East. So why do experts say Hamas in some ways is actually getting stronger? I'm Scott Duman in Washington to explain coming up.
You'll notice tomorrow that temperatures will be a little bit lower than they were today, and it's really going to feel like winter as we get ready for temperatures reaching the low to mid 40s across the state. We're going to stay nice and dry. However, next week we're looking at the chance for rain. I'll let you know when to expect the rain and how it looks for Christmas in my Weather Authority forecast.
All right, Jasmine, thank you. We'll see you in a few minutes. And this is a live look over Towson, Baltimore County. Back in a moment. Turning to the latest coming out of the war in the Middle East, on the top left, the UN Security Council will meet tonight to vote on a resolution calling for a, quote, cessation of hostilities and demanding humanitarian access for the Gaza Strip. The vote has been stalled as diplomats negotiated changes in an attempt to prevent the United States from vetoing the measure a second time. On the top right, teams for the World Health Organization say that they observed, quote, unbearable scenes during a recent mission to northern Gaza. Officials say the medical system is on its last legs and the emergency department inside one hospital is facing a bloodbath. On the bottom left, the Palestinian telecoms provider Paltel says telecommunications are gradually returning to central and southern Gaza after a two-day blackout. Paltel blamed that outage on the current conflict, but declined to provide more information. On the bottom right, IDF forces announced that soldiers struck down Hezbollah military targets. That's in Lebanon. Officials say fighter planes attacked rocket launchers, military buildings, and military infrastructure belonging to the militant group supporting Hamas. U.S. intelligence agencies are warning that Hamas's influence and credibility have grown dramatically in the 2 months since the October 7th attack. Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman explains.
Another week of running for shelter in Israel and the subsequent punishing attacks in Gaza. Now, growing concern that retaliation against Hamas and residents of Gaza for the initial October 7th attack is encouraging support for the terror group, making it more powerful. The Wall Street Journal, which reports nearly 20,000 people have been killed in Gaza since the war began, a majority women and children, support far from the fighting among Palestinians in the West Bank has more than tripled, and CNN reporting intelligence officials warn Hamas has positioned itself successfully in other parts of the Arab and Muslim world.
Look, anytime you see the numbers rise for a militant or terrorist group, let alone one that demonstrated that it can be so incredibly barbaric, you have to be concerned.
Matthew Levitt, who's testified to Congress about the threat, says the spread of pro-Hamas messaging everywhere from social media to college campuses is energizing to extremists.
Where on top of the events in the region, there's been this spike in anti-Semitism around the world. Taken together, these have created an environment that is ripe for terrorist groups to incite to violence.
Politics, too, at play. Those insisting America isn't doing enough to prevent innocent deaths in Gaza, threatening to derail President Biden's re-election.
He doesn't want to do the right thing. That's our message to him. We will campaign against him in 2024. We'll abandon Biden.
Meanwhile, here at home, recent polling shows a majority of young Americans, 51%, agreed with the goal of Hamas of ending the Jewish state. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
That brings us to our national question of the day. Do you approve of the Biden administration's response to the Israel-Hamas war? 79% of those who voted say no. To weigh in, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on the Pulse tab. A city school's employee is arrested for allegedly bringing a loaded gun to school. A closer look at the troubling trend across Baltimore.
New border battles playing out across the country. Both Democrats and Republicans now calling the situation unsustainable. I'm Christine Frizzell with the latest.
We are following three big stories at 10:30. Tensions heat up at the southern border after the Texas governor sends a plane of more than 100 migrants to Chicago, the latest in the ongoing battle between border towns and big cities. An alarming new trend targeting tow trucks in Baltimore, the latest incident and how it plays into the city's growing car theft crisis. And a city school employee is arrested for allegedly bringing a loaded gun to school. Some parents tell Fox 45 they were shocked to learn about the arrest inside the school.
But to hear about today's incident, which I was not at all aware of until you mentioned it, you know, it definitely makes me say that perhaps I need to move my child out of the school.
That wasn't the only gun found inside of a city school today. Following that employee's arrest, another gun was found, this time at Douglas High School. The gun allegedly belonged to a 15-year-old student. That marks 5 guns found inside Baltimore City schools in 2 days. Let's go to Fox 45's Amy Simpson. She's taking a closer look at the incident surrounding a city school's employee and has frustration from parents.
That employee has not been identified, but the district says the gun was found by another employee before classes started this morning. It was a half day of school at Kip Harmony Academy in West Baltimore today, but even those few hours of class wrapped in controversy. The elementary middle school placed on a soft lockdown after an employee of the charter school operator was arrested for bringing a weapon to the building. Sources tell Fox 45 News the gun was loaded.
I am extremely concerned about that. As a parent in the city, I know that we have a lot of challenges that we face, but it hits close to home when it's actually the school that your child is in.
This mom picking up her 6-year-old son, previously unaware of what happened inside his school today.
It has me thinking all types of things, like perhaps I need to be a parent from home, like, you know what I mean, like homeschooling. It's very concerning, very alarming, and I'm glad that no one was hurt. But yeah, I definitely think that more needs to be done, and it's alarming.
Another mom sharing this letter with Fox 45 News, saying she didn't receive notice of the gun arrest until 11:19 a.m., several hours after it happened. Students were not in the area when the weapon was found by another employee. The letter reads in part, the employee is facing criminal charges and will be held accountable by the school operator. Today's arrest at Kip Harmony among a slew of police incidents inside Baltimore City schools just this week. On Tuesday, a student arrested at Carver High School after allegedly stabbing another student and a teacher in the midst of a fight. And just yesterday, a 15-year-old student arrested for allegedly having 3 guns at Dunbar High School. A source close to that investigation telling Fox 45 News those weapons were loaded too. But back at Kip Harmony at dismissal, this grandfather also learning of today's arrest just before pickup.
It's not surprising because again, what we're dealing with now with children bringing guns to school, and the staff themselves is now protecting themselves.
Telling Fox 45 News he wants to know more about the circumstances, aware of the violence inside other city schools over the last few days.
Find out what his story is. Was he fearful? Was he, frightened for his life? What was the cause? Because this is what's going on in school.
And in neighboring Anne Arundel County Public Schools, a substitute teacher was arrested for allegedly bringing a gun to class back in October. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Back in October, Fox 45 News sat down with the mother of Isaiah Carter, a 16-year-old shot and killed outside of Patterson High School last year. She says since his passing, the city hasn't done much to help keep kids safe.
Several guns found in schools so far this year already. Do you think the city's doing enough to keep guns out of schools and keep Baltimore City kids safe?
I don't. I ride around the city during the school day just to see what it looks like now since all of these deaths have happened. I'm still seeing the same amount of kids outside. I'm still seeing kids walking down the street, and I'm like, is this a school day or not? But kids are getting guns, kids have weapons, kids are going to school, and we're terrified.
She says one solution to help curb the violence is having more police stationed around city schools.
The dealer didn't even know that we had the car. We called them and told them that it was gone, because you figure 200-300 cars on their lot, they can't tell if a car's missing right away.
A stolen tow truck is used to steal a brand new car from a Baltimore County dealership. That crime captured on camera. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has more on what happened and why tow truck companies are warning this could be part of a bigger issue.
Yeah, it was almost like a game. Grand Theft Auto are gone in 60 seconds like the movie, and the damage still visible on this tow truck that was stolen in less than 60 seconds. And what it does next, you have to watch the video to believe.
A high-speed chase in northwest Baltimore.
He's on the move again.
Watch as the white Infiniti blows through a red light.
We just wanted to catch up to him, even if he was going to jump out and run.
More on that later. Watch again. Tow truck in front of the Infiniti, stolen. The person chasing it, not Baltimore police, but Ron Rucker of Auto Barn Towing.
We just wanted the truck back.
Earlier that night, the tow truck stolen off Pulaski Highway. The white Infiniti standing by. Seconds later, a suspect captured on camera just before yanking it from the dashboard.
But it didn't kill the tracking on it. So that's how we was able to track him where he's going.
Tracked to an Acura dealer in Baltimore County. Their cameras pick up what happens next.
He came in, put his boom down, backed up to it.
Seconds later, leaving with a stolen 2024 Acura SUV. Ron showing Fox 45 just how quick the suspect was able to drive off.
You just hit that switch and unfolds it. So once you get level with the ground, then you're there. You just close it around the tires, raise it up, and you're gone.
Ron says he believes the suspect who stole the tow truck knew what he was doing and had bigger plans.
I believe if they know what they were doing, that probably wasn't going to be their only car that night. They probably just going to keep making runs.
Back to the chase.
People crashed and bailed at the location.
The stolen Acura dropped in the middle of the street as the suspect was trying to get away. He eventually crashed the tow truck, leaving behind his driver's license, which was turned over to Baltimore police.
They had all the information they needed. They had the video footage, they had the ID, they had everything they needed to go to this person.
Criminal records show the suspect was arrested earlier this month for a handgun charge and resisting arrest, but not for auto theft. Fox 45 reached out to Baltimore City and County Police as to why not. So far, we have not yet heard back.
So we haven't got another second phone call, say we still working on it.
On Wednesday, we told you about 2 other tow trucks that have been stolen, one in the city and one in the county. Baltimore County Police say they're looking to see if that tow truck was used to steal other cars. In Baltimore, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
There's also been an uptick in stolen cars across Baltimore. City police report nearly 11,000 cars have been stolen this year. That's nearly triple the level compared to this time last year. Those lucky enough to locate their stolen cars often find them at this massive impound lot on Pulaski Highway, where they tell Fox 45 News it can take weeks to get their car back. One woman says she even had to pay off speeding tickets that were racked up by the thieves before she got her car returned.
To go online and pay it, $80. And now I have to go to jump through hoops to try to get them to give me my $80 back.
In the impound, the Baltimore City impound lot, if you do visit it, you'll notice that there's like sections specifically for Hyundais and Kias that were smashed, and I'm just lucky that my vehicle wasn't one of those.
Well, city police say on average it takes about 14 days for someone to have their car returned from the lot. Joseph Black, the Baltimore man accused of hitting and dragging a police officer with his car during a traffic stop, has been found not guilty on charges of attempted murder. The incident happened June 22nd on Park Heights Avenue. Police say Black was armed when they pulled him over. He then tried to drive away and hit an officer with the car, according to police. He also faced charges of possessing an illegal gun. The judge declared a mistrial on those charges. Black has a criminal history dating back 20 years. In 2006, he received a 5-year sentence with 4 years suspended for armed robbery. In 2021, he pled guilty to possessing a firearm by a felon twice in 2021, though a plea deal from the city state's attorney's office, Marilyn Mosby. He spent 19 months behind bars for that. Another record was broken this week at the southern border. More than 12,600 migrants were encountered in a single day. It comes after the U.S. Customs and Border Protections reported more than 300,000 migrants were encountered at the border in October. National correspondent Christine Frizzell has the story.
At the southern border, the frustration has reached a boiling point.
I visited with some of the first responders that have been pulling these babies out of the water. They're exhausted. We're all exhausted.
As Congressman Tony Gonzalez was speaking, a migrant with a medical emergency behind him. Just one snapshot of a situation he says is growing more desperate by the day. Now playing out in a border town versus big city battle. Texas Governor Greg Abbott putting migrants on planes from Texas to Chicago after Chicago's mayor threatened to impound buses and fine their companies for unauthorized transport of migrants.
We're doing everything in our power to deal with this very overwhelming international crisis that has placed the city of Chicago as a target by this governor.
Governor Abbott in Texas also this week signing new laws, making illegal immigration a state crime, giving law enforcement the authority to arrest undocumented immigrants anywhere in the state.
Senate Bill 4 is now law in the state of Texas.
The new law already facing lawsuits as other top officials in the state continue to ask the federal government for more support.
No community and no country really can withstand and continue to withstand the broken immigration process that we look at today.
We hear plenty of talk of a broken immigration system in Washington as well. And despite a bipartisan group of senators working on a fix, both the